Hey everybody, A0 here. So this is the one you've been waiting for. So this is a video of all the iPads from the last couple years. That's from 2021 to 2022. Starting with the ninth gen iPad. Still a great buy, A13 Bionic chip. Lowest starting price at $329 for this model, which is the 64 gigabyte model. So it's up from 32 gigabytes at the lowest option from the last one before this, the 8th gen iPad. So that's double the storage base from the beginning price, which is really excellent considering the price didn't jump from that model. Still got an 8 megapixel camera here in the back, but it doesn't have a camera bump compared to the rest, so it's nice if you want to lay it flat on its back. On the front, it has the 12 megapixel center stage capable camera, which is an ultra wide, and it's very nice for video calls and conferencing. Still has the touch ID button on the bottom, which is a little nicer than having it in the power button for reachability and just because it's a bigger button. 10.2-inch screen. So those are just some of the basics of this one. Still a great iPad, still works great, it's pretty snappy, and it came out just last year, so it'll still be supported for quite some time yet. Then we have the 10th generation iPad here. I got the yellow goldish color, which I love. They're so colorful. They have a pink, they have a silver, they have a blue, all great color options. And I really like that they added color to these models because only the iPad mini and the iPad Air had color options before, and now the iPad does as well. It has a 12 megapixel camera now, so it's caught up to the rest of the lineup, which has 12 megapixel main cameras as well. But it does get a camera bump due to that. It also has two speakers on top and bottom, and four speaker grills for stereo sound, and a USB-C port. Both big updates from the previous model having Lightning. It also is the only one that has the center stage front-facing 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera in the right spot, which is the center of the landscape orientation here, which is much better for video calling. Personally, it's become one of my favorite iPads for my day job, being able to take video calls and be looking straight on at the screen and looking like I'm actually looking straight at the screen instead of looking off to the side on my phone or something like with the other iPads, because the orientation of that front-facing camera has been huge and is a big reason why that will be one of the iPads out of these six that I am going to be keeping, along with the two Pro models, because they're just so powerful. And I'll get to those in a moment. Because next is the mini iPad, which starts at $499, $500 in the US for the base model, but there's been plenty of deals to get it a lot less than that. So that's $50 more than the iPad 10th generation, which starts at $449, brand new, for 64 gigabytes of storage, just like the 9th generation one. And like this version, you'll see that is kind of a theme among the non-pro iPads. They all start at 64 gigabytes of data for the storage amount, which a lot of people don't like. It's not that much these days, and I do agree with that. 64 gigs does get filled up pretty quickly, but these are still great devices. This one also has the stereo speaker setup, one on each side, four grills, USB-C, but it gets a faster USB-C port than the 10 generation one, which is capable of 5 gigabits transfer speeds per second, which is a lot faster than this one, which is USB-C 2 type, which is the same speeds as the Lightning. So it's the better port, but the speed is negligible. There's no upgrade between the 9th and 10th gen as far as transfer speeds. But this is the first one where you get a transfer speed boost. It's the first mini model that gets the more modern design that was introduced with the Pro in 2018. It's really nice. It's also great for video calling because it's so light and you can just hold like this. So even though it's in the portrait mode for the camera being in the center of the portrait side, It's not as big of a deal because it's such a light tablet that you can just hold like that through video calls. So it was my previous solution for video calls with my day job, but and with family and friends on FaceTime. But now the 10th gen is taking a spot mainly because the battery. Because it's the smallest one, it has the least amount of battery life out of all the iPads. I did a battery test video; you can check that out, which didn't include the 10th gen. It wasn't out yet, but it being similar size to the iPad Air, I'm assuming that the battery life is going to be similar to that one. Although because they have different chips, that could be vary slightly. But screen size wise, it's the 10.9-inch screen, which is up from the 10.2-inch screen on the 9th gen, just like the iPad Air. So energy wise, the screen brightness and things are going to take up about the same amount of battery at the same rate. Which was one of the bad things about the Mini. I was going to keep this one, but after using the 10th gen for video calls lately, they last longer on these long 3-hour meetings I have at times. So the battery can get through that whole meeting versus this one, it died before the 3-hour meeting was concluded. So that's kind of a huge advantage for the iPad 10. Besides the camera replacement, is that the battery is going to last you longer for those longer meetings. Now on to the next iPad in the lineup, the iPad Air 5th generation. It actually says iPad Air. I love that they're adding those more specific identifiers on these iPads because they look so much alike nowadays in this orientation when they're face down, that it's hard to tell them apart. So it has the same 12 megapixel camera as all the others except for the 9th gen. But the one advantage the Mini does get over this is it also has a flash on the back. It's the only one outside the Pro line that has a flash on it. So that's a little bit better for the camera on the back. But outside of that, they're exactly the same cameras. It has the 3-pin connector here, which the Mini doesn't get since it doesn't use keyboard accessories. That's one disadvantage to the Mini. If you want a keyboard accessory, it's definitely better to go for one of the bigger sizes because even the 9th gen will have accessories for it because it's more of a size thing than a capability thing, because all these iPads are capable of that. In fact, this can use wireless keyboards, so you can still connect keyboards in that manner with Bluetooth. So this one, I love this blue color. I love the colors of these ones. It has USB-C also, but it's an upgraded version that can do 10 gigabits per second speed, so it's faster than even the Mini, and especially the 10th gen iPad. It has the M1 chip in it, so it has a very powerful desktop class chip. That's one of the biggest advantages of the iPad Air and why it's such a great tablet, because it has the top performance outside of the Pro models. So it's really good. It does only have a 60 hertz screen refresh rate, which is the biggest downfall because it's hard to quantify that power boost when the screen can't do above 60 frames per second for gaming in particular, whereas the pros can. So even though some of the older pros have a worse chip, they still look a little better sometimes with gaming because just the 120 hertz refresh rate. But outside of that, it's a great tablet, great screen size at 10.9 inches, the same as the 10th generation iPad, and just 1.1 lower than the iPad Pro 11-inch models. It's a great iPad, and it comes in at $599, so it's about $600 before taxes on Apple's website, brand new. You can find deals on it. I've seen as low as $519 recently on Amazon for their pre-Black Friday sales. Maybe it'll be even better deals on Black Friday. It did just come out this year, so I wouldn't expect to see it too much lower, but $520 is a great deal for this iPad. And it makes it only about $70 more than the 10th gen, which, it's really close. Because that one, it's a big boost as far as the chip. The speakers sound louder, even though they both only have 2 speakers in the top and the bottom and 4 speaker grills. They just use better speakers in this one because they sound better than the 10th gen, so I'll definitely give it that too. But because of the camera replacement, this one is the better video calling device, which it's a big deal to me. It depends on what your use cases are, but that's a big deal for me. So it came out of these two because, as I said, this one's so light, it's easier to hold it in the orientation, portrait orientation for an extended amount of time while you're on a video call. But with this one, that little extra weight, even though it's the Air and it's pretty light, If you're holding it for 2-3 hours like this, it starts wearing on you. I mean, of course, you could prop it up with something. Most cases have it where you prop it up in this orientation, though, so it'll have that weird, you're not looking at the camera angle when you're on a video call. Still a great tablet, gaming wise and all that. Runs amazingly on it. The M1 has zero hiccups, being the most powerful, the second most powerful chip available in any iPad. And it gets the full unbinned version, just like the Pro models did too. So even that isn't a difference there. 8 GB of RAM, just like that. Supports center stage. It's the only non-Pro model that supports center stage, or excuse me, stage manager, out of the new iPad OS update. So for longevity and things like that, forward thinking, being that it seems like there's going to be some updates that are only supported by the M models, or at least the ones that have greater RAM, or the Pro models. It's a good one to get if you don't want to step into the Pro models because the higher price and things of that nature. Then you get into the Pros. This is the last generation or last year's model, 2021 M1 Pro iPad, 12.9-inch version. So it's going to be similar to the Air on the back, except it has a dual camera setup, has the 12 megapixel wide, just like the iPad Air 5, the Mini 6, and the iPad 10th generation, but it also gets a ultra wide that's 10 megapixels, the LiDAR scanner, and a flash. So it's really nice, but it does make the camera bump a little bigger. Then you have the mini LED on the front. It's the only one that has that technology, and it makes it by far the best for viewing content, gaming, and things of that nature, because it just looks so much better on mini LED than the LED screen technology that the rest of the iPad lineups use. And it also has that refresh rate of 120 hertz at max, but it's a variable refresh rate, so it can bounce between 24 hertz and 120 hertz, depending on what you're doing on the iPad. It's a great iPad. I love it. It's definitely one of the ones I'm keeping. I use it as a second screen for my MacBook, and because it's 12.9 inches, it's almost the same size as my 13-inch MacBook M2 MacBook Pro, or MacBook Air, excuse me. So it's a great tablet. It's probably my favorite to use for my personal work that I do. It also has center stage, of course, for video calls, but because it's the biggest size, it looks like you're looking away from the screen the most out of all of them, because of the orientation of the camera. So it's not the best for video calls because of that. But it does have center stage, so it does kind of correct it a little bit, trying to move it around, especially when you're further away from the iPad anyways. And so yeah, it's more of when you're in a meeting and you're close up in your cubicle or something like that I'm kind of referring to with some of these video call comments. But it's a great iPad, M1, very powerful, lasts for years, and it has the facial recognition technology, so you don't even need to use the Touch ID button, which is a bonus compared to the Air 5 and the Mini 6 and the iPad 10 with their power button using for fingerprint, which is just a little bit thinner and smaller than the Touch ID button here on the home button for the 9th gen. And then we have the last but not least, the new M2 iPad Pro. Has the iPad Pro text, so that's another one that's distinctive with the 5th gen iPad Air. And it has the quad speakers, which both the Pro models have, which is a huge advantage if you're an audiophile like me, like having your music playing on these guys. And yeah, it's much better for that stereo sound, but it also has 2 extra speakers, so they sound fuller and louder than the Air, the Mini, and the 10th generation iPad. So, and of course the iPad 9th gen, which has 2 speakers as well, but they're on one side, so that one has the smallest disadvantage when it comes to that. Same design, everything like that. So the screen thing is the same. It's 11 inches, so it has a 0.1 inch size advantage on these two, and it also has ProMotion, so it gets 120 hertz refresh rate. But 11 inches isn't that much of a difference, just 0.1. But that ProMotion is a big difference. So if you're using it for gaming, this is going to be your best bet as far as size, power, and capability. The 11-inch Pro models are going to be your best bet for gaming. I think the Mini is, in my preference, the best one for gaming. You use the A15 chip, which is no slouch. It's in the iPhone 14s, non-Pro ones that is, and the 13 Pro. So it's a powerful chip. Still, it's great for gaming, and because of its size, when you're gaming on the tablet versus like using a external controller and just using it as a screen for like streaming, like Game Pass on Xbox, um, it's so much better because the size and you're holding it like that. So now you see I have all these iPads. What's the one I say you go for? Budget's going to be one thing to consider. This is still a great buy, even in this time, being late 2022. It's still very powerful. It can run all the games, it can run all the apps, the same as any other iPad here. It may be specific apps it has trouble with, like video editing. You know, the more powerful, the more smooth the experience is going to be. The higher end games still run great on it, but for the max resolutions and textures and speeds and frames per second, you're going to want the Pro models, just because the 120 hertz refresh rate, really, because the Air with the M1 runs them great, but you know the screen technology can only go as far as it's capable of going. So 120 hertz is always going to make it look smoother in gaming. For content consumption, like video streaming and videos in general, the 12.9-inch M1 or M2 models are going to be your best bet because that mini LED. It's the only one that gets mini LED, and mini LED is by far the best screen technology that's on an iPad. It gets you the darkest blacks, it gets you the best colors, and all that good stuff. As far as like photo editing, I would say the Mini and up is the best bet for those. That's going to get you the P3 color gamut, so the color accuracy is going to be that much better compared to the ones that do not have that. They all have True Tone as well, but only the Mini and above gets the anti-reflective coating, so they're a lot less reflective. That's another huge bonus when you're consuming content or if you're outside using the iPad. The regular iPads, that is the 9th and 10th generation iPads, are going to be the worst for use outside. For me, for my use cases, I'm keeping my 2 Pros for sure. This is my personal use one. I'm using more for music. With the 4 speakers setup, is really nice for that. It's great for portability, so when I want to take it on my trips and things like that, just to have something to stream on, to game on, and to get some work done too, it's great for that. This one I use for work, for my kind of personal work, outside of my day job, like things like this, video editing, things like that. It's great for photo editing. Is great for, because of the size, because of the color accuracy, because of the mini LED screen. It's great for those things. But it's not the most portable. I still take it on my trips sometimes when I want to do some work on my trips, because I do pictures and video on my trips. But a lot of times I'll just take the Mini on my trips because I just want to enjoy myself when I'm on my trips usually, and then I'll do the work when I get back home after the trip. The Airs are great if you don't have the budget for a Pro model but want the M1 power still. Future proofing is really nice when you're buying your electronics. It's always something to think about, and this is just as future proof as any but the M2 model. Of course, the latest, greatest is always going to be the most future proof, but it does have the M1, and M1 and up, honestly, is what you should be aiming for if you want an iPad that's going to be long lasting. Get all the updates for iPad OS because they have the most RAM and they have the M1. They're going to for sure get any kind of updates that they make to the software, especially for the people that want Apple to continue to push the software toward more of a Mac or desktop OS experience. You're going to want the M1s and up. Although I still think you shouldn't sleep on the Mini. Like I said before, the A15 Bionic is still very powerful. It does make some Windows laptops look bad, even though it's a mobile chip, and it does have a lot of the more modern conveniences of the Air and Up and the Pro, that is. iPads, with the USB-C being faster speeds than 2.0, so it's definitely faster than Lightning. It is the most portable. It is still great for video chats because putting it in lens in portrait mode isn't as big of a chore as the bigger ones, especially if you're just holding it, um, in your hands. And for gaming, because of the size, you can get the stereo sound and have it in your hands more comfortably than any of the other iPads because of the size. I still think it's a really good one. It's also only $500 brand new, and you can get it for as low as 400 new. I've seen deals on. I got it used for 400 when it was very new still, and it helped me a lot because I had gone through surgery, so I couldn't um, lift as much during my recovery period, and so it was a great iPad during that period for me. Um, but this will be the other one I'm keeping just because of the day job, just because of the video calling. Honestly, that's the big reason I'm keeping this one. That's the winner for me. The color is amazing. Being a Lakers fan, is gold, and my case is purple, so that looks great together. That's another thing I like about it. I do like the more colorful flavors. The Pros only come in the silver and the space gray, so they don't get the colorful options, unfortunately. I wanted to get silver, but I got space gray because it was on sale for the M2 model, $50 off brand new already. So that was awesome. I picked it up because of that. $50 is $50. It still saves you money. Um, but yeah, these two are going to cost a lot. So if you're not going to use it for more serious tasks, or you don't care about the extra sound quality with the extra speakers, then it's really going to come down to either these two or these, even if, depending on your budget. I think the 10th gen is really good. A lot of people have been, trashing it since it's come out, comparing it to the iPad Air 4. But honestly, the selfie camera is better on this one than on the iPad Air 4. The Air 4 is only a 7 megapixel one that does not support center stage. That's a big deal to me. Again, I use the video chatting a lot for work and then also for family. My family lives away, in different states, so it's a great feature to have for me, to be able to have conversations with them. Um, you know, that's more lively than just on the phone. Not being able to see them as much as I would like. So this is the one I'm keeping outside the Pros. It's not great for media consumption. It's not great for outside use. It doesn't get as bright as the Pros, so that's why I'm keeping this M2 one as more of my fun device, because it does have those advantages, and I can have fun with it. This one I can use for my day job. This one I can use for my other jobs, my side jobs, and the rest, are probably going to be given to family members for Christmas. So, but they're all great devices, and don't try to go over your budget just to get one or the other, because they're all really good. They can all run 90% of all the apps in the App Store very well. They all are snappy. They're all been made in the last 2 years, either this year with the 10th gen iPad, the 5th gen iPad Air, and the 2022 M2 iPad Pro 11-inch, and or year 2021 with the 9th gen iPad, the 6th gen iPad mini, and the M1 2021 iPad Pro 12.9 inch. So they're all going to get supported for quite a while still. Apple usually supports for 5 or 6 years, even longer in some cases, like the Air 2, my second ever iPad. The first one was the first Air. Being supported until early this year. Now with iPad OS 16, it's not getting that one, so it went all the way up to 15. That's from 2014 when it released to 2022. So it's a long time to support a device, especially these days. A lot of times you have to update, or they want you to update fairly often. So unless you're just like me and love tech, you don't really need to do that. Especially with the iPads. Apple's been amazing with that. That's one of the reasons why I love this tablet so much. But I needed to update. I went a little crazy with it, but my family will be happy with some of these that I'll be sending them, and the ones I want to keep, I'm happy with. They do what I need them to do, and they're doing very well. So yeah. Any questions? Let me know in the comments, and I can answer them. I've used all these quite a lot now, and been having a lot of fun with them. These two support the first gen Apple Pencil. The rest support Apple Pencil Gen 2. I have both the Apple Pencils now, so I've been messing with those. And I don't really have a preference. I mean, of course, it's a little nicer to have the Gen 2 just be able to stick to the side and charge, and just pull it off when you're ready to use it. But if you have a case like me that holds the Gen 1 pencil, then that's not a huge advantage. And I don't really mind plugging it in to having to charge it. It's not a huge deal to me, but some people, like the convenience of being able to just charge it off the iPad very easily without any cords or attachments necessary. So I definitely get that. And but yeah, I think they're all great. I think people are underrating the 10th gen. The new design is great. I love it. I love having the camera in the correct space. It's the only one that does that. Even over the new Pro, which came out at the same time, was announced at the same time late this year, just last month. So yeah, these are the current iPads, the ones that Apple sells on their website, and they're all great for the different purposes and needs, and just depends on what you need from your iPad. Alrighty, have a great night, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe.